CNN has learned that the DOJ has handed the Epstein files over to the House Oversight Committee.
And in addition, the Justice Department has publicly released a transcript and audio of the interview between Deputy AG Todd Blanche, who of course was formerly President Trump's personal attorney, and Ghislaine Maxwell. We have a team of reporters who are following this. We begin with Caitlin Polantz. Caitlin, what more are we learning about the release of this audio and this transcript?
Well, this is quite an unusual moment for the Justice Department to release something like this. The transcript of the interview between Ghislaine Maxwell, the convicted conspirator of Jeffrey Epstein in this child sex trafficking situation, and to also release audio. But of course, this is a very unusual situation for a lot of different reasons. We're still going through this transcript, and I can see, just as a top line, that Ghislaine Maxwell speaks about the fact that she had met Donald Trump before and that she knew Jeffrey Epstein and Donald Trump were in contact. There is nothing more that I'm seeing here as of now related to that. That is a question that we're going to have as we're going through this, if there is anything more said there in the transcript that is substantive. Trump, of course, has not been accused of any crimes, but a lot of questions about his relationship with Epstein have been out there. The other thing here that we are seeing is what happened with the Justice Department's handling of Ghislaine Maxwell. We see at the very top of this transcript that Todd Blanche, the Deputy Attorney General, so that's pretty much as far up as you get in the Justice Department, General herself, he's the one that sits down with Maxwell and outlines there's an immunity agreement, that what she says in this interview cannot be used against her in court unless, of course, she lies in some way. Very unusual to have a proffer such as this, that's what you would call it in legal terms, for someone like Ghislaine Maxwell, who is post-trial, never cooperated. Blanche even says he's not interviewing her as a cooperator at this time, that they were just, quote unquote, talking when he sat down with her a month ago, and that she continues to be appealing her case, could potentially, in the legal world, have another trial out there for her if the appeals were to work in her favor. But they did do this interview. She did have a limited immunity agreement. She did sit down with the Deputy Attorney General, and the Justice Department now has released both 4 sets, so 4 different documents documenting the transcript of the 2 days of interviews, as well as many audio recordings capturing Ghislaine Maxwell speaking to the Deputy Attorney General at the end of July in this interview.
And Caitlin, what are we expecting on the Epstein files handed over to House Oversight? We understand that committee members are going to review it, potentially add additional redactions. How soon can we see it?
Well, that would be the full Epstein files, or the portion of the Epstein files that the Justice Department is willing to release to the House Oversight Committee. So the Ghislaine Maxwell, Todd Blanche transcript, that's a new filing that the Justice Department itself is putting out there. But we also are learning from our producer, Hannah Rabinowitz, over at the Justice Department, that the Justice Department has sent the records related to Jeffrey Epstein to the House Oversight Committee. We'll have to wait and see exactly what that is and how fulsome of a collection of records it is. The FBI has thousands of records from its investigation of Epstein. A small portion of them have been released in the public sphere, and the Justice Department previously, when they tried to say they were releasing records, it was largely the same as what had been out there before about Epstein. So we will wait to see what that is, what went from the Justice Department to the House Oversight Committee. We expect there to be redactions around there. We're waiting to see exactly how much would be in those documents. But the House Oversight Committee, the Republicans on the Hill, they did want essentially everything. Everything from the Epstein investigation, everything from the Ghislaine Maxwell investigation, and everything surrounding Jeffrey Epstein's death in 2019 at a jail.
Yeah, and Kristen Holmes, you're there at the White House. What can you tell us about the conversations there that led to the release of the transcript?
Yeah, Brown and Boris, this has been an ongoing conversation for weeks now. And just to take you back in time, we know the White House was having a lot of problems managing the Epstein story. One, the Department of Justice, they believed, and this is staffers at the White House, in addition to people across the country, had really botched the rollout of that memo saying that there was essentially nothing within the Epstein files, and they couldn't get away from this story. So about 3 weeks ago, there started to be an internal conversation. It was just after Todd Blanchett sat down for this interview with Ghislaine Maxwell about how they could attempt to be more transparent. And one of the conversations around this was whether or not to release not only the transcript, but the audio as well, which, as Caitlin said, is really unprecedented. I mean, even the fact that they took audio in the first place when we reported that was unprecedented. That doesn't happen in every sit-down interview. So this conversation had been going on now for weeks, and there was a moment in which they were planning on releasing this information, and then they decided not to. They decided to pause on whether or not they were going to put this out and see where the story went. And the story had started to die down. So then the thinking began to be, why would we reinsert this into the story? Now, of course, the story was going to be the news today anyway. We know the Department of Justice was going to give these tranche of information on Epstein over to the House Oversight Committee. There was no way the White House could avoid that. So clearly, what we're seeing here is them releasing this information in conjunction with handing that information over to the House Oversight Committee, which makes sense if you're looking at it from a perspective of not wanting to reignite the story when it doesn't exist, but now it's out there anyway. They're putting it out there. And I will tell you one thing. I had been told up until last week that there was still some contention behind the scenes between different officials. Remember, we reported on that big blow up between the FBI director, the Attorney General, the Deputy Attorney General, Dan Bongino, that caused him to storm out of a meeting at the White House. I was told there was still a little bit of contention behind closed doors as to what they should release and what it would look like. Now it appears, by giving the Justice Department, by giving this to the House Oversight Committee, they're kind of putting this in their hands, saying, you guys be the ones that release the information. You choose what you're going to release. But there is something to be said here that we heard from the head of the House Oversight Committee, James Comer, earlier. I'm not sure if it was today or yesterday, where he said, we're going to go through it. Hopefully the White House will work with us. It should be noted that Comer is a very close ally of President Trump's. He is incredibly close to the White House. So this idea that they're not going to be in constant touch seems very strange, particularly given what we've seen of their relationship leading up to this point.
All right, Caitlin Polantz and Kristen Holmes, thank you very much for that.
Let's discuss with Dave Ehrenberg. He's a former state attorney in Palm Beach County, also attorney and co-host of the podcast George Conway Explains It All. George Conway is with us. Thank you both for being with us in person. Dave, first to you, your reaction to this news that they've released this transcript, the conversation between Blanche and Maxwell.
Not surprised, because the whole purpose of that meeting was to help Donald Trump. It was a self-serving interview by the number 2 person at the DOJ to exonerate Donald Trump, and it's in her interest, Ghislaine Maxwell, to do so because she wants a pardon. She already got a nice move to the Austin, Texas facility, minimum security prison, which she wasn't eligible for, but she is playing ball, and it looks like the administration likes what she had to say, because I can't imagine if she said something negative about Trump that they would gladly release it to the public. I don't know how much information we're going to get from it. She is a liar. She was actually prosecuted by the Trump administration in 2020 for perjury. Then the charges were dropped. She lied during her deposition in 2016 in a civil suit by Virginia Giuffre, saying that she has never seen Jeffrey Epstein act untoward towards young individuals. I mean, she has never taken responsibility for anything. So we should take her testimony now with a grain of salt.
Yeah, and some of these young women talk about how she actually actively participated in their abuse. We should just be clear about that. She was instrumental in this scheme. George, how are you seeing this?
I see it exactly the same way. I don't think they'd be releasing this if they thought it was in some way harmful to Donald Trump. I think she had every reason to downplay any involvement that Donald Trump had in anything she was involved with. And I do think, I think the real question is, what's in the documents that they haven't produced? I mean, I also am suspicious, for much the same reason, that we're not going to see all the documents. I mean, they had FBI agents reviewing these documents for weeks on end. There's a massive trove of these documents. And, one of the things that happens in litigation and investigations is you don't actually know what you're not getting unless you are asking lots of questions in an adversarial fashion. And as we know, this committee is not going to be adversarial to the President of the United States.
I wonder then what path there might be for victims and for the general public who want more information, who want the truth. Is there a day that we're going to see the rest of those files?
That's a good question. I think it's going to be whether these documents answer questions that people have or whether they raise more questions. And that's really we have to go through the documents to see what that is. I mean, I remember back in 2019 when the White House, Donald Trump's White House, his first White House, released the, not transcript, but the memo summarizing the call with Zelensky, and they thought that was going to totally exonerate him. Instead, it raised more and more questions. I mean, these are not people with good judgment, and they are not people. I wouldn't want them to be my lawyers, I'll tell you that.